Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, Gabriel.
Hey, Misbah. Hey, everyone. How are you all doing?
Hey, yeah, this is awesome. It's been a while, Gabriel. I think this is always fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining again. And yeah, we have a lot of things to talk about today. And yeah, excited to this, again, starting 2025, a lot of things happening in the world of AI and a lot of new things with Langflow. So we're going to talk about a lot of that. And yeah, for everyone joining, where are you all joining from? Would love to hear which part of the world. And while that's happening, we're gonna talk about a few quick things that we always like to mention that you can chat with everyone, chat with us, let us know. Yeah, first thing, where you joining from? So folks are joining from Poland, Michigan, US, India, Canada, India. Uh, yeah, and somewhere, if that's Florida. So a lot of places, a lot of folks joining from all parts of the world. So that's great. We have the discussion around the new release. So that's 1.1.2 and 3 that came out recently as well, Gabriel. So both of those. So the goal here is going to be how you can maximize what you're building using the new releases and also some of the features that you might not know that is already available in Langflow. So look at that. Someone from Brazil, Georgia, Colombia. Wow. So this is awesome. By the way, just to let you know, someone is asking. So I'm also joining from Canada, Vancouver, Canada. And Gabriel, how about yourself?
I'm joining from Uberlândia, Brazil.
Awesome. And that's where a big group of the Langflow team is, right?
Yeah, we have Otavio is here and Italo is here, Carlos today. Some people are working from home, but yeah, we have quite a few people from the team here.
Awesome. And how's the weather like over there, Gabriel?
Um, it looks like it's raining or it's going to rain very soon. But it's chilly, I like that because these past few days has been really hot, and it feels like you're in a apocalypse well, with how hot the sun has been, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's the complete opposite here in the northern hemisphere, right? So super cold here. But we have got some good days in last I would say last few weeks. So yeah, with that, Gabriel, let's jump in. What do you think? We've got a lot of things. So maybe I'll give a quick recap of some of the things we want to cover. So there's a lot of discussion around DeepSeek based models and how one could use them, how one could use them for the LLM aspect and also agent or just RAG application, right? So we want to cover that. And then we'll talk about the new features and what's available in what was released. And thank you, AI creator, that I think there's a comment that you both are very cool, so I appreciate the comments over there. And I forgot to mention that there is also a section for questions, so you'll see on if you're using desktop or web-based the platform to join, then you'll see on the right side. If you're using a mobile phone, then it might be on the bottom, basically where you can ask questions and let us know. We can show that on the screen. There are also a couple of other things. I think we'll just utilize chat and question answers for now. So Gabriel, let's dive in. What are the new
Okay.
things that you want to highlight, and how one could build it? Also, if you want to share your screen and walk through the examples, that would be awesome as well. And after that, I'll
Okay.
cover the DeepSeek aspects.
Sounds good. Let me share. Mhm. This one. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let me run back here. This is what I there's some flows here just for the stuff that I do throughout the day. But so uh this is like the basic prompting, right? The flow that has been in Langflow for a long time now. One of the additions to the 1.1.2 release, and a kind of a philosophical change, not change, but idea that we're gonna move to, is this component here, which is called run flow, right? So run flow is what it says. It runs any flow. So if you pick, I don't know, basic prompting here, you get some inputs that the flow has, and it will run the flow and output maybe a chat output, something like that, right? That way we can make flows that are more complex, less have less components on screen, or maybe modularize some flows, some steps that we always use. Maybe we can keep that in a separate flow and then use it dynamically, right? And just a sec, let me just do one thing here. Okay. So what this is cool about, I think, just to talk a bit about what we're planning for this, is we want to make so that flows can be treated as components as well, because at the end of the day, this is what they are, right? We have a graph API under the hood, and we are developing it to make it so that we can it's easier for us to create flows from the code itself. And with the run flow, it will feel like you're just having another component on screen. And soon enough, we will have maybe a folder, and you can see the list of components on the sidebar, right? This is one of the plans we have for it. One cool part of it is that any flow can be a component, and any component can be a tool. So if we activate this, then this can be used by an agent, just like any other tool, which is pretty powerful, right? You're basically creating huge flows with a very simple structure, where you're just pointing the agent to a couple different flows, and you have the structure ready for in a more like appealing way, right? More manageable size. One other feature that is I think it's going to be pretty big, and that is our first step into it, is the loop component. So the loop component works like this. You have a list of data objects, and you pass it to the loop component. It will then output one data object at a time, and you can then do anything with it, right? You can process it, you can make a request, send requests with the data in it. You can do anything. And then once you're done, you return to that data object. So the idea is really that you have that data object, you process it, you add data, remove data from it, you then get an updated version of that object. You do that through a list, and at the end, once that list ends, you can do something with the transformed data set, right? So in this case here, I'm running two URLs. I'm loading them up, passing them into the update data object. That simply adds a new key to the data object. And this key simply has this value here. And if we let's run this one. So you see that it's running and has this value here. So if we go into, let's say, not item, but done, you see that we have now two objects, and both of them has the Langflow or sorry, the Lang key and flow value. So this can be applied into many um, in many ways. You can loop, because after the loop component, you can basically create an entire flow, and it will do the same thing for all those values. And to that end, we also saw the need for adding a more structured list of data objects, right? Because a list of data objects was a bit too abstract and limited, right? So, as data scientists, as we are, and a lot of us are in the team, and me and Rodrigo, we've been data scientists before Langflow, so we used Pandas a lot. And because of that, we thought, why not use data frames, right? We we can create an interface, a bridge between our data object and the Pandas data frame, and then it will, which is a tried and true uh, Python package. It will have all the features that a data frame or Pandas has, and we'll be able to expand on that, right? So we just added that type to Langflow, which is here, and right now some components have that, and the Langflow has that feature, right? So if you're building components or you're building flows, you can use those that type as you see fit. And we're adding more components and moving components that, for example, had a list of like this one, for example, that outputs a list of data objects, also can update a data output a data frame. Later on, we'll add a data frame input into the loop so that you can use both, right? And move into having the proper data frame type and the proper data object to symbolize, table data and JSON objects, right? They are pretty much what they do. Um, but yeah,
Gabriel,
and
that's definitely quite exciting. Sorry, I have a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you before we move forward. First thing, this is amazing. So, on the first thing that you showed, Flow, right? So using that as a tool,
Mhm,
so that's quite interesting because I mean, with the agent flows, we already had option to use many different components as tools for the agent, right? But now with that, you're saying we can
mhm,
also use different flows, right? It's really, how do you describe that to agent? Let's say we want to give clearer instructions, and people many times they're curious, that the agent is not using the tool or they have issues with that. So any tips
mhm.
on how one can describe that for the agent?
Right. This is also one improvement we made to our tool mode, right? So when the component has these features here, right, and has some outputs, and now we we have the option to define the tool name, the tool description, and identifiers, which is basically some more technical names that you give to the tools, so that the LLM, or actually the OpenAI API, for example, can deal with that data, with that object. Now, in here, you can edit any of these values, right? So we can say, okay, this tool name, let's just say JSON output, and then we can say generates no, call this when you want JSON, um, not a JSON, right? But when you want the
Some structured output, right?
yes structured output. And
Nice.
this will be what's passed to the agent, right? We're
Nice.
also we love feedback, right? This is first implementation of this. We have a lot of cool things about making the playground more accessible. So you can see more and be more clear of what all of the steps that the agent took, and also um, as kind of a Langflow philosophy, right? Everything that we do that our components can do, any component can do, right? So all of that. If you see an event happening in the front end that um, some code block or an image or anything showed up on the playground, that means a component did it. So it means you can create components to do that as well, right? Um, this is also a big part of a big plan that we have to make the API even more robust and I think the word I'm looking for is versatile, right? So that you can essentially use the same events that our front end uses, you can use those as well, right? This is will be a big step in a direction we want to take, which is make so that the Langflow UI is simply integrating with the backend, right? So that the backend has uh, APIs and endpoints that will allow people to use and pretty much use the same events, right? Events about started a component started to build, ended, or there's an error, or the tool has started running. Here's the output of the tool, etc. Many types of events that we're going to be adding as we develop more features.
Nice. This is really nice. Especially, I mean, I like that, that we can describe tools better, and then, now agent have better context so they can use it accordingly. So no, really nice, Gabriel. Now onto the second feature that you showed, a loop. So I mean, this is something
Mm-hmm.
that's going to help out quite a lot. So I've had different flows where I had to run, in a loop on different data points, and I had to write just custom code or so custom component. But this makes it really easy. Now, for, let's say, looping through data points, so anything that's processed in, let's say, in this URL component, you're saying we are gonna kind of loop through if there are some h1 tags that we're trying to parse through, or anything like that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna automatically show that as a loop, or how would one go as yeah, I mean, from my understanding, we just attach and we start seeing data as a list of items.
Right. So let me grab this. So the 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 way the loop component works, is this, right? So you have a component, and anything that outputs data can go into it, right? But only this component here is allowed to essentially to create the loop, right? So you can only do this if you no, not here, but so you can only do this with this component, right? Again, this is a feature of the output class in Langflow. So if you want to create components that have this capability, you can, and um, you're probably gonna find some use cases that are more complex than this one, and we'd love to learn more of all the experiments that people are starting to build with the loop. But so here, this will receive a data object or a list of data objects, and it will know how to deal with that, right? And it will output that list one at a time, right? So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but the way it works is you have to have the loop, and if you, for example, do this and try to run the component, you can even see here, so execution blocked, right? Because you can't, you're
Okay,
not allowed to have that. You need to the loop, because otherwise it's going to it's not going to work, right? So
I
this
see.
is one
Okay.
of the validations that we added to make so that helps. Sorry,
Yeah.
screen show up here. Okay.
No, no, I think that's nice, Gabriel. I just wanted to get an understanding how one could loop through the data and how do you connect it, right? So, no, definitely, I think that's something I want to try and test. Also, the data frame option, right? So that's quite nice. Same thing. Worked a lot with many of the data science tools, and data frame is quite common way
Hmm.
of analyzing data and looping through it, building charts or visuals or so. So yeah, this definitely helps. So along those lines, Gabriel, there was a question in the question section that the agents are not generating the charts in a clear way. If there are any tips on that, so Edwin helped out over there. Thanks, Edwin. That there are certain ways that tips that Edwin provided. Also, there's another comment from Raymond, also on the charts. Anything from your side, Gabriel, that you'd like to add? If someone were to use DataFrame and then from there create charts, right, and some sort of visuals, what have you seen helps, and
Oh.
any libraries, anything to install on top of what's available, or there are tools within Langflow that can help?
Yeah, so I think for charts at the moment, we don't support them directly, right? But we support messages, or sorry, images. So you could create an image, for example, on matplotlib, and use that image as a uh, in the message, so that the user the playground can display that, right? Because the playground displays markdown, just simple markdown. So if you have a URL, or if you have a local a Langflow URL, especially, it will display that. Now the other one is about expected graphs despite clear instructions, right? In some cases, they only produce simplistic graphs with dots instead of the intended visualizations like colorful charts. Right. I think that might be a model problem. Um, it does feel like it, if you get a more powerful model, or maybe add a big prompt with many um, examples, right? I think that would be useful. If you take a look in the code agent that Hugging Face developed and researched, right? They they use a big prompt with many examples, right? And that, from the models we have right now, a big they have such a big context that it makes sense to have that big prompt if it makes the model or the agent perform better.
I see. Perfect. No, thanks. That helps. Hopefully you get a chance to try that. I think the person who asked question. So there's also a question from Bhupesh in the chat section. Can we have a team of agents brainstorming or certain problem before giving its output to the next agent? So from my understanding, some sort of sequential setup.
Hmm. Yes, that would be, I think, a good use for the run flow, right? Where you create like, let's say, a team of agents that you have tailored all of the tools and the connections so they can talk to each other. And maybe I even have um, a component called Notepad that is still in draft PR that I built, because I wanted to just have them. Let's simply have let's a place where they can store information and the other ones can read, right? So um, once you have a flow like that, that you have an agent that orchestrates a conversation, for example, you could have an agent that orchestrates or passes the task to the other agent in a more structured way so that they can talk and define what's the solution in that case. I think that's actually a very good idea for us to create a template, actually, which would be really useful for a lot of cases, right? Sometimes,
Yeah,
as we know, um, especially now that we're coding a lot with AI, ideally you want to use, for example, R1 or O1, right? Both are very good at really defining the problem. And then once you have, okay, now I like this solution, then you just ask a smaller model, but that are good at, for example, Claude Sonnet to solve the problem, right? Using what's been generated.
that's right.
Yeah.
No,
So
I think that helps. Yeah. I think I initially misunderstood the question, thinking that just passing on the data, but yeah, it's more of orchestration. And also, we do have some example videos. So if you were to go on our YouTube channel, search for Langflow, and then we have different setup of agents. If one were to look for agent and how to use them, you'll see we have examples of orchestration, a team of agent, and then also sequential, hierarchical. So anything that helps, or if you'd like some additional content, let us know. We're happy to build around that as well. So I see that there are a lot of questions coming in, Gabriel. Maybe we before we go to answer those, are there some other highlights that you'd like to mention from this release? So there are two releases that happened, right? So 1.1.2 and 3. Yeah, anything that you'd like to highlight in those?
yeah, I think uh, one cool thing is that we added a lot more components onto the pool of tool-enabled components, right? So this is good, even though, again, the feature is there. You can, if you're building a component, you can build that, right? We have integrations. We have integrations with MCP, right? Which is really nice. You can use Claude, make Claude call your flows, right? Which is really cool, as if they were tools for it. Um, we have integrations with SambaNova, Novita AI, OpenRouter, ScrapeGraph. We have updated many components. The Composio component is even better now. We have a YouTube bundle, Wikidata, many improvements. This release was probably one of the biggest releases in Langflow's history, right? So more than 35 people contributed, new
Oh,
contributors, right? So it was more than 60 people contributed to this release.
wow.
And also we fixed some performance issues thanks to the community that reported on Discord, helped us out on finding what's the problem was and how where it was. Some of the fixes we made for the performance and memory issues we had was already uh, done by the community, by community members, and we just had to implement, make sure it was actually working and it was delivered, right? So really good, just a lot of help and
That's amazing. No,
a lot more, but let's keep it at that.
no, this is awesome. Yeah, I think some of these might take probably 10 to 15 minutes just to cover those, right? So definitely, recommended and suggested for the community, the folks joining here to check out. People who are asking about the version upgrade that is not available on their end, you could look through documentation how you can update or upgrade your instance of a Langflow. So this is, we're talking about the local installation. If you are using the Astra data stacks provided Langflow, you'll see the change in version soon. But if you want to do it locally on your computer, then you can go ahead and do that. Great. So there is one more question about integration with LangGraph. You want to talk about that, Gabriel?
Hmm. Right. So LangGraph, because a lot of especially LLMs, right, in Langflow, um, are are built on top of LangChain, right? And even many features do, right? So because of that, the integration with LangGraph would be pretty like it's probably already there, right? That's the point. I think maybe a good step that we could take is to maybe create remote graphs, right, where you could just call a graph that you already have in LangGraph Studio or something like that, or you have deployed it and you don't want to like move away from it yet. Um, that would be maybe a good step that we could take. I can take a look at that. But again, every LangGraph is, I think it's already a dependency in Langflow. And if you have a LangGraph that you've created, to make that into a Langflow component, it would be just basically copy and paste. Now, also a good idea, maybe we can talk about this in later on, would be to have a dynamic LangGraph component, right? Where you paste a LangGraph and you get all the inputs set up and the outputs, right? That would be pretty cool as well. Maybe we can look into that.
Sure, awesome. A lot of questions coming in, so maybe we'll go through some of those questions. Gabriel, next one is about throughput issues. I'll show that on the screen as well. So Raymond mentioned that having throughput issues when locally hosted. Is there a way to increase TTFS? If is it a hardware issue? So something that you want to mention there.
I built the same flow chain. Let me just, because I think something cut off. Okay. Yeah. So Raymond, maybe we can talk a bit more if you're on Discord about this. I'd love to know your experience a bit better. We have made some very important improvements to Langflow's performance in this last release, right? Even the database connections, they are asynchronous. We have a lot of effort into making Langflow truly asynchronous, and we achieved that already, right? So even though you create a component that is synchronous, we have ways to make it asynchronous, which ties really well with Fast API, right? Which is our backend. So I'd love to learn more about this, because that would like make us understand what are the bottlenecks, right? We have already an internal effort to build a report on all of the goods and bads about performance and how to make Langflow a better Langflow deployment a better experience, right? And how to having hard data on proving that things work and how they do, right?
Awesome. There's a question about Crew AI and using those components. So just to maybe let the folks here know that there's a component, there's a group of components available from Crew AI in Langflow. You can test. We also have some content. So again, you can use. There are a few templates as well, or examples. Those were provided, so that usually works. If someone have difficulties, feel free to share that in Discord, and reach out to the team. Anything specific that you would like to add here, Gabriel, for the question by Roberto?
No, I don't think so. I think so. These components, they should work pretty well, right? We've since they changed some of the internals of theirs, there may be some and they are also running pretty fast, right? So they may be having changes that we haven't still caught up to, but they as far as we can tell, they should work pretty well, like before.
Mm-hmm. That's right, and I've tested personally recently for many different use cases, the Crew AI-based agents, right? So they work quite well. Again, if there is any specific issue or error that you notice, feel free to reach out and let us know on Discord. There's also a question from Leonardo about the white labeling or having some sort of component that they can create, and Edwin helped out over there as well with how one could create custom components. So custom component always helps you if you have something specific that you would like to add. You can write code and just edit, modify. There are many different functionality. Again, if you're using something locally, the possibilities are endless, right? So anything you can do with Python and any library that you can install, you can just install that locally, run it within Langflow, and then your flows are even better. So there is a core group of built-in components that Langflow offers, but there's a lot more you can do in addition. So I think with that, we'll transition to the DeepSeek and how to use DeepSeek discussion for a little bit. We'll come back to the questions in a few minutes. So just wanted to highlight, so the community, I mean, last week there was a lot of discussion around, some of the models, those were released by DeepSeek, especially R1, is the reasoning model, and how one could use that. And Langflow team did a great job, got that out quickly in a few days. So now there is a dedicated component that one could use for DeepSeek. I'm going to quickly show that. And there are 3 different ways actually that I have found out. Maybe there are more, Gabriel, that you can share about how one could access these models. So first thing is, let me see if we can get this. So now I am going to show how you can do this locally if you have Langflow running on your machine. So now these are a couple of examples. First thing what I did is, if you were to just start a basic prompting type of setup, simple, you can let me actually walk you through that. So we have template for that, and within basic prompting, you can pretty much, get started with the template. Very simple, just you're saying that, okay, answer question in a certain way. So in this particular case, we're saying that you're a Gen AI expert and you're going to answer. So the default is with OpenAI. What I've done is I just swapped it out with DeepSeek components. So this is something available under models, and then you can drop the DeepSeek component here. And with that, now you are going to need the API key. So this is something available from the DeepSeek console or their platform, where you probably have to set up an account and if probably top up the balance and get the API key, and then you can add the API key. So I have added here previously, so I can just bring that in. Now you have option for the DeepSeek chat, and you might have to just refresh, and you'll see that you'll have the reasoner as well as the chat model. And both of those, you can test it out. Chat model is similar to if we were to compare with the OpenAI model. So something like 4.0 mini, which is quick, you can chat, response quickly. The reasoner model is where it's going to go through the whole reasoning step, very similar to the OpenAI O1 model, where you can see actually in this case what the thinking aspect is, how it's reasoning, and then it's going to give you the output. So that's the DeepSeek component. We also released a couple of tutorial videos on how to use it. Give it a try. Pretty much it's just swapping out the previous component with this one and running it. So now this is where you are using the dedicated DeepSeek component that's going to call the DeepSeek API. Now, some people have these discussion, is that fine to use? Can we use something locally, or, something on servers within the US or so? So yes, yes to all of those questions, right? So if you want to run DeepSeek locally, the best way to do that is you can install Ollama on your machine. And with that, if you were to just run the command that Ollama usually provides, that is Ollama run whichever DeepSeek model you're trying to run, and get that going. So I have Ollama running on my machine, so I installed it, and I just have to install whichever version I'm interested in, something that, again, your machine supports. And DeepSeek came out with many different variations. So right, I could go 1.5 or 7 or so, and with that, we can have that. And there is a dedicated component again for Olama. If we were to look in the models, then we'll see that there is the Olama right here. And what you're going to need is, in this case, the base URL. So if you set up Olama once, it's usually just one particular port that it's pointing to. You could just point it to that port, that URL, and then select the model name and run it. And I have previously run different models. I haven't run DeepSeek in this particular case, but any model that you install, it runs smoothly. So that is something you can run locally, and in that way, if you have any sensitive data, it stays on your machine. So that's the second way. And now, third way, which if you want to go with speed and then quickly get responses from DeepSeek, that's where I had this particular case where we have Grok-based setup. And Grok offers many different open source models, so they have hosted it on their servers. They have the fastest inference, so if you want to use any model with speed, then highly recommended to set an account with Grok and then get started. So same thing again, if you have used Grok, you probably have an API key. If not, you can make an account, and they have generous free tier that you can add your API key and just refresh the models, and you'll notice that DeepSeek R1 is available here as well. So just to give a quick run here, if we were to just let's say run the whole setup, you see that's quite fast, right? So for the question we ask, we get a response. And here again, there's a think portion. There's some reasoning that happened, and then also there's a response back. And I've previously asked different things. You notice that it goes through the think process and then the reasons, and then comes back with a nice response in details. So those are the three ways that I know of. And now, again, if you were to wire this up with anything, like it's just an LLM call, you could do that. If you were to use it within a setup where you are providing the feedback or the response to an agent, you could do that. If you have a RAG application, right? So that's also something we created a tutorial about. So how you can just swap out the template that we have for RAG for a DeepSeek based component. This could be DeepSeek, or you could use Grok in here, same thing again, and then you can have a RAG that is running using the reasoning model or the chat model available from DeepSeek. So again, this is something you can try different ways, whichever way you are comfortable and you want to have the models running, those options are available. I also saw, I think, Gabriel, that there are many providers like Together AI, and I think there are a couple of other providers they're also offering. So no, we have some of these components available. So I think one could run through those as well. So at least these were what I had in mind.
Yeah, and with the OpenAI, the OpenRouter and the OpenAI component, with all of these providers having an OpenAI compatible API, it's easy. If we don't support it, you can basically create a new one just by using the correct URL there, right? So that's even like in the coolest, because a lot of them already support full calling and structured outputs, and the OpenAI component has all of those features baked in.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and any of these models, so really appreciate community reaching out. If you notice that, there's something that we are not supporting, let us know. We'll be happy to help out over there as well. So with that, yeah, let's get back to some questions, Gabriel. There is a suggestion from Flavio that to make sure the documentation is updated. So that's one of the things, right? The team is really quick on adding a lot of new things, and on top of that, there's community contribution, and often we realize that we need to update documents as well. So really appreciate. We'll do our best to update documentation. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, if there is, so there are many different ways. So the question here from Flavio is that, how it's a bit tricky to find out what's the best component to use and what's the, let's say the optimum setup. So there are different ways you can try. What I have seen is that if to experiment, I think you'll get an idea yourself that which setup works best. Maybe for example, what we showed here, calling the DeepSeek model from different angles, right? So you can run locally or on Grok or so. So again, based on your use case, if it's something you're looking at speed, you can use Grok. If it's something you want to run locally, you can use Llama. So again, it might differ on the use cases that you have. Okay,
I
let's
like
see.
LM Studio myself.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't actually used it, to be honest. I think that's on my list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
because
have
I think I've seen a
MLX
lot of.
support and Llama CPP support. They have many runtimes, and it's cool. It the website, the Llama website has more information, right, about the models and which ones you can filter between through full accessible if it's can take tools, right? It's um but LM Studio, it's pretty good. I like seeing all these nerdy things, right? Seeing how much RAM it's taking, how much CPU it's taking, and stuff like that, and it's good to see.
Nice. Yeah, no, I think that's something that I need to install on my machine as well. There was, I think, a question about not seeing DeepSeek components, and appreciate Gabriel comment there. You just need to, make sure that you have 1.1.2 or anything above, and you'll see the component available in there. I think there was also a comment from Raymond that, okay, this is referring to the previous question, the time to first token. So yeah, that is something that could be discussed offline.
I
Raymond, please
see.
do reach out to Gabriel.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now that you say that, I think it's the reason for that is that if you're running in the UI, you have some more steps, right? Because we're integrating, right? If that is happening through the API, then I definitely like to know more.
Yeah, and also, just the streaming option also in the playground or so, right? That really makes things quite fast, especially when used with Grok or so. You see that it's instantaneous, so that is also something that might help. Other providers, it might differ on how the API responses, but again, if it's streaming supported by them, you'll see the first token come in quite fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and by the
Yeah,
way,
good.
we updated the streaming endpoint as well, and it's getting closer to what I said before about the events, right? Now we're just streaming some events, but with API v2 that we're working on, we're gonna have like a very robust endpoint for streaming, for batch jobs, even for just if you wanna run a flow and then just get the results whenever you feel like. You don't have to keep make the request keeps waiting for the response, right? You can just create an asynchronous task. So there's a lot of work on that direction.
Oh, wow. Okay. And Gabriel, is that also something applicable to the API if we were to call the Langflow component API or the Flow API? Would that work, the streaming option?
Yes, the
Okay.
that's so right now it only streams, if I recall correctly, it only streams tokens, right? No, the other events we're not streaming yet. We're probably this is kind of a, let's say, middle of the path solutions to the API v2, which will have all the events and will allow you to configure which events you want to stream, etc. Right? We'll give a lot more flexibility.
Awesome. No, I think that that was something that definitely helps because previously it did take a few seconds, right, just to get the full response. So this speeds up things for sure. Great. No, this is really nice, Gabriel. A lot of exciting things, and also it was great to hear, the new features added, and also the community contribution. It's always great to have community members reaching out, contributing on the for the on the repo and towards the platform. We suggest everyone here to also be part on the Discord server. There's a lot of discussion happening. You can reach out to the team, and team members are active there. In addition, we are trying our best to add a lot more content, so you'll see that on different socials, and you'll probably get hopefully the latest whatever is out there. You'll see either a video or tutorial or so. Also, if you are producing content, or if you're talking about Langflow, do make sure to tag us on these platforms. So if it's Twitter, or if it's LinkedIn or so, it helps us to know what you have built. And there have been a lot of awesome projects that community have been building on, and tagging, and we are just basically sharing it with the rest of the community. So really appreciate that. Yeah, and I think with that, there is maybe one last question before we end. Is there an integration with Telegram, allowing the creation of Telegram bots, or maybe also if this is extended to Discord or so? Gabriel.
Yeah. So this is it's not, I wouldn't say a pet peeve, but actually something that I've asked and talked about in with the team many times, right? So we're doing some work to have that be a better experience, right? Using improving the webhook experience, improving allowing for asynchronous jobs to run, right? Because maybe the Telegram bot doesn't need to have a response, right? At the end of the flow, it could be a request sent to Telegram, right? So it can be a webhook that the bot will call. We also this is something maybe even the community could help, right? The one way I'd like to have bots and be it on Telegram or Slack would be to have a full application, right? That integrates with Langflow, right? So I did some experiments, I think more than a year ago, that you'd have your Langflow and you talk to it, and it will say, okay, which flow do you want to run? And then you say, okay, this one, and that will sets up the Langflow instance to whenever you call it, it will run that flow. So uh, that feels like more of an application, right? Where you can configure in the server. That would be useful as well. Maybe you can pick, okay, I want this bot to have this model, but have the server have the I think it's both for Slack, right? Have the Slack server running and integrated into Langflow, and they you say Langflow run Slack, and that will just put up a Slack server. You run pro Langflow run Telegram, that would put another server, and you then you configure through the environments, right? So this is something that is just we haven't had the time to do, but we just love that. We have partners and community members that create components for Telegram, that create components that interact with WhatsApp, but an official one, right, from Langflow, we still haven't had the time to get to it.
Yeah, and I think also the bottom line is if there is a webhook or an API that you can call, there are components available in Langflow that you can already use to call those, right? So that in that way you can have
Mm-hmm.
your own setup. So yeah, I think that would be exciting to have something for Telegram. So awesome. Thank you so much, Gabriel. This was fun. And again, for anyone, if you have any more questions, please do post them in Discord, and we'll try to have these every few weeks or so. We'll be excited to hear the new things that will come out in the future, Gabriel. Thanks again. This was amazing, and we'll see everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Nice talking to you.
All right. Thank you. Likewise. Bye.